continued. So this is part two of that continuous. I didn't expect this to go as long as it did, but hey, fuck it, whatever. Um, so anyway, I remember during Tartuffe, Cecily was very nice. She was also on a scholarship as well. So they had one male and one female scholarship, I believe. So yeah, so she was obviously in a lot of stuff too. Well, she had gotten. They had these big rules too, which I found out when I've done other professional theaters are not always how it's done. Just so you know. But like basically the rules were obviously you couldn't smoke in costume, you couldn't eat in costume, you weren't allowed to go out in costume and greet the audience, which is also something that I've. It's not the way it's done. I've almost every show at Burien they wanted you to go out in costume and greet the audience. So uh, I'm not saying every theater does that, but you know some theaters do. Whatevs. Whatever experience it is, that like it ruins the illusion. But Lois was really strict on these rules, and she would always be like, and Randy was a little bit, but I think Lois for the most was like, you didn't do this, you didn't cut your hair, you dyed your hair, da da da, So whatever. So anyway, I remember like Cecily had gotten everybody some candy. Now, granted, nobody was eating it. Nobody was eating it in costume. It was basically just a nice little opening night gift. Everybody got one. Cool. Very nice thing. And I remember Lois found out about it somewhere or another. And she said that like she was mad at Cecily, and then she was mad at Doug, and she was mad at somebody else. Was it Kelly, or was there a fourth person? I can't remember exactly who else, but it was like kind of like we're the leaders. And anyway, like she told Doug, like tell Adam or something like that. Like, Doug, can you tell Adam I need to see him or talk to him or something like that? And like. And I think I said something like, "Oh yeah, I heard about that" or something. I forget how it went, but basically I lied to her because I didn't want to fucking talk to her about some bullshit. And so like anyway, like she comes up, Doug, did you tell him? Yes, I did. And then like, but then it was on credibility issues, and Brandy's like, "Oh, you've lost some credibility. Yeah, you've lost some credibility by lying and shit like that." I'm like, okay, and so yeah, but the whole thing with it was this. It'd be one thing if we're sitting there snacking away, having Snicker bars, ruining costumes or something like that. I get that. These costumes are expensive. They're renting things, they're doing this, they're building things in the costume shop. I get it. All the respect in the world. Like I said, I had to do stage costuming. I had to do stage makeup. There was time in stage makeup when I was feeling so down about a project. My mom picked me up and I started crying in the car because of how worthless she made me feel. And so, like I said, and then with like costuming, I had to do hand sewing. I had to do the thing, and I think I ended up getting a C in the class, so I passed. But like, it was tough. That was 2000, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. Cause yeah, okay, I didn't mention that before, but I mentioned classes here and there. But like yeah, and there was this other class. I forget what it was. I don't remember what it was about. It was another kind of artistic class, like the design for the theater, but I forget what it was. And I just remember that she comes up to me at one time and she's just like, well, I don't expect you to do some amazing project like Jackie, but I expect some kind of effort from you. And it was just like, way to just make me feel like a pile of shit. Why don't you just tell me that you fucking hate me and you want me to drop out? Why don't you just tell me that shit? Because I said, people say, oh, words don't matter. No, they do. Okay, and people are, oh, you're too sensitive. Fuck you. Anyway, but that's my reaction to that. Fuck you. But like, that type of stuff, how is that motivating as a fucking teacher to tell someone, well, I'm not expecting much from you? Well, then you ain't going to get much from me with that attitude. It's because then it's either I got to prove you wrong or I'm just like, I'm not going to fucking try. Fuck you. Just give me a C and I'll move on. So anyway, I just wanted to mention a little bit of those Loisisms. But yeah, this was that thing. We had to have a stupid meeting over fucking chocolate. Like, who fucking cares? Nobody was eating it. Nobody ate it in costume. If anything, they ate it afterwards. It was a nice thing that Cecily did for people. What's wrong with giving your castmates a fucking gift? You know, it's just like they were so goddamn anal retentive about this shit. And then the whole like, be a leader. I'll talk more about that, but you got to be a leader for the other people. Be a leader, cause you're. You know, it's like, I'm not here to be a fucking leader. I'm here to learn how to fucking be a better actor and grow as an actor and grow in my craft. I'm not here to fucking be a fucking leader. And I'll help people out, of course, but like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, all right now, guys, let's all be quiet now. I'm not your fucking teacher. You know, that's just, well, I'm just expressing these feelings. A lot of these feelings are old news, whatever, not a big deal. But I'm just expressing how I felt at the time. So anyway, there was that. And then, of course, I got on probation again. And I just remember because Ken, like, you know, Ken really wanted me to be a stage manager, which I was on the fence about, but I didn't want to give up the performance part of it because, well, I'm not the best actor. I still love doing it, and I wanted to grow. And could I have worked harder to do that? Absolutely. But, so I give myself that. But there were times that things were kind of, I feel like, occasionally, sometimes obstacles put in your way. Sometimes my own doing, sometimes others. But like, he was nice, and he's like, oh, let's see on the flip side, you know. Because originally he was going to have me stage manage one of those shows that spring. But then we couldn't do it. Well, what happened was, I remember we went out for Cecily's birthday, and I had mentioned how I'd never gotten to do a children's show. I didn't get to do one of the Willows or anything else, and I really wanted to do a children's show. And they were doing Treasure Island. And I, you know, of course, because I'm probation, I couldn't get in. Okay, whatever. And so, to her credit, there was a girl that was playing the role Mad Dog Jones, and apparently she dyed her hair or something like that, and that immediately was just like, oh, of course, you know, Lois, she dyed her hair, you signed your wedding contract, you know, and granted, you signed a contract, I understand that, you know, but like, so she ended up dropping out, and then Cecily talked to Randy about it, and asked if I could be in it. So, I always respect Cecily for that, for doing that for me. She didn't have to do that, and that was really appreciative of it. It means a lot to me, and it still means a lot to me that she did that. So I talked to Randy, and he's like, okay, well, here's what you're going to do. You know, you're still technically on probation for this session, but we're going to have you be in the show. You just have to come by, you know, periodically every couple weeks and tell me how you're doing in your grades and in your classes. And honestly, that was, I'll fully admit, like, with my relationship with Randy and all that, that probably was my favorite semester because I could check in with him, we could laugh. You know, I was taking philosophy and just like acing the shit because it's philosophy, but you know, and it was a good semester overall. I got to be a pirate. That was fun. The cast was fun. I remember I earned a lot of respect from the cast because Doug was kind of being. I forgot to mention that Doug fell asleep one time during the Win Willis performance backstage. Like, he was really half-assing it a little bit, and that's not a criticism of him. I love Doug. You know, as a friend for a long time. But, like, you know, but at the time, it was like, he's being kind of an ass. And I just remember, like, he was out in the crowd, and I think he was trying to give, like, some kind of note or something like that. And, you know, he's sitting next to Cecily or something like that. And I was just like, well, Doug, when you're the director, I'll listen to you. So until then, shut up. You know? And I just remember, like, everybody was practically applauding. Because Brad was in the show, too. Brad didn't really do a lot of acting, but he was in the show as well. And my friend Billy Keeler and stuff like that. And, like, everybody was just like, you know, even Doug was like, you know, he's right, you know? So, like, Doug always took it in stride. So, to his credit, you know, when I call him out or he called me out, we usually took it in stride. Like, all right, you know, you're right, you know. Tough love here and there. But anyway, so that was fun. That was a good show. And then I was funny. We're doing strike, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go back to being on probation for the rest of the year. And then Ken comes up to me and says, hey, can you work backstage on courting Chekhov? And I'm just like, it's me and Doug had joked to us. It's like, boy, this probation's such big punishment, you know. Can't be in any shows now, you know. Now, courting Chekhov was pretty fun. Like I said, we were basically just helping with props and bringing a lot of stuff on. Christy stage managed that one. Yeah, she did. And it's funny, there was this guy who was Mr. Speed. I might have mentioned him in my stand-up video. But he was in that. This is before I knew he was Mr. Speed. And I knew he was a stand-up comic, but, like, I didn't know him then. But I just remember this one line where he's just like, he's coming, damn him. And it was the funniest fucking shit. Probably the funniest thing Mr. Speed ever did. Oh, anyway. Besides just wonderful, I'm a house doctor, or I make house calls. I'm just a rug doctor. Yeah, great joke, man. Great joke. I mean, not a bad guy really, but interesting. But that wasn't bad. We had a little bit of conflict with the assistant stage manager. Her name was Emily. And I don't know, me and this guy Kurt were just like really kind of like, she was getting on our nerves a lot. Like, I forget what exactly it was. I don't know if she was I think she was assistant stage manager, but like, there was just something where like she would constantly like basically delegate us to do this stuff or wash the dishes or something like that because there were dishes in the show, and it's like, and me and Kurt just kind of got fed up at one point. He's like, why don't you fucking do it yourself, you know? Because she was never doing it. It was like, we're supposed to be kind of a shared responsibility, but whatever, it's not a big deal. I don't hold any ill will towards her or anything like that. But I remember we did apologize and it was all good. But yeah, this time though, but at this point I was not really, after the Vanessa thing, I hadn't really found any other women that I was interested in at that time. But yeah, like I said, Courtney Chekhov, and then they did A Bright Room Called Day, which was a cursed show. They had a show on Hitler's birthday, and Cecily like just like busted her foot or something like that, so they had to completely reblock the play with her sitting on the couch. Another guy had like blood coming down his forehead. Another girl fell down the stairs. It's just like, it was definitely just like, wow, this is a freaking cursed play by a Jewish author too, Tony Kushner. I didn't have to work on that one, so that was fine. I did see it though. I actually was there the night that happened, so that was a that was a hell of a performance, I must say, and applaud them well for doing as well as they did. Oh yeah, we had this kind of thing too. Now 2001 was a different year because I didn't go back to Florida. I was still I still liked Amy, but she went back to Florida and I wasn't able to go back down. And honestly, it was like, I was a custodian when I was down there, which was fine, but like, if it had been an acting thing, or if I was going to be goofy or something like that, it might have had more of a reason to go down there, but it just wasn't really, like, I'll just, stay home. I took some math classes, I think, over the summer just to kind of get some of my grades up and things like that. And I did. My grades went back up, which is good. This time when I took a summer class, I didn't get a D in it and screw everything up. So that was good. But then I ended up writing a letter. That's right. We had the end of the year kind of review thing. And I think I'm glad to mention that Tom Miller, was a really nice guy. He also had the unfortunate misfortune of, I guess, dating Lois, which was, you can't always choose the best people, I guess. But I think she really put on a facade for him. But anyway, that's a whole nother, that's just my opinion. But yeah, anyway, so we had this end of the review, and I remember, you would do a couple monologues or whatever, and then they kind of talk about your progress, how you're doing or whatever. And I remember, Tom was always very nice. I was like, oh, I've seen you on the TV show thing, and you're always very comfortable in front of the camera, much like I am right now. But, in front of us, it's you're kind of nervous and shy, and it's it's a good point. But I just remember, I did these monologues or whatever, and Randy, I think Randy wanted me to come to him or something like that. And he says, "Did you anyone go over these monologues with you?" And what I meant to say was that my brother, was on book for me. But I said my brother went over it with me, and he's like, "Well, what expertise does your brother have?" And it was like, "No, I didn't mean it like that," But it was just, I think it was that semester. It was one of those semesters, but that was funny. I'd still laugh about it. Randyisms are fun. And then. So yeah, that summer I just took a math class. I was working at Myers. What else? Oh, my grandfather died that year. He had Alzheimer's for a long time, so it was kind of it was one of those things where I'm glad he's at peace. But that was honestly the first time I'd actually seen my dad cry, because he was coming to tell me that, I would have to walk home from class that day, and he couldn't even get the words out. So, I've seen him cry since then, of course, but that was the first time, and I was 21 at the time, I think, so it's that, or 22, something like that, so it's the first time I'd seen my father cry. I mean, he obviously cried to my mom, and over the cats and stuff like that when the cats had passed, but I'd never seen him, really cry, so it was a nice moment. Not a happy moment, obviously, because, my grandfather had passed, but, it was obviously, it was what it was. So there wasn't much going on in 2001. There were a couple girls at Myers I thought were cute. No one I asked out or anything like that. But like Tim ended up dating one of them for a little bit. But I'm not going to go into that story because that's inappropriate. But not saying exactly what happened, but like it wasn't anything bad, but it was just it was a weird situation. I'm not going to talk about that just because I don't want to talk about that. It's in the past. Tim's a married man. I'm a married man. There's no reason to talk about those things. There's nothing bad, but it was more just basically a girl telling us we could grope her. Basically, that's the basic long story short of it. And it was like complete permission. Go ahead and grab them, in a parking lot of Myers at 1 a.m. But so it is what it is, whatever. But let's just say she got around a bit. And no criticism of that, whatever floats your boat. But she had kind of a Drew Barrymore haircut, with the short kind of haircut. So and a little bit of the Drew Barrymore face. I think that's why I was attracted to her. Never pursued it, no big deal. Hope she's well, whatever. And there's this other girl who was kind of tall and blonde and stuff like that. And I remember me and Tim were hanging out because this is when me and my friend Tim started hanging out because we worked together there. And because the first couple of years at Myers, I didn't really hang out with anybody, but we started hanging out and my friend Frank and all that. And I was just like, I'm gonna be real smooth. She's working the U scan. I'm gonna go through and buy some gum. I had no real plan. I was just gonna buy some gum. And they go like, hey, buying some gum here, I have no fucking in here at all with this girl, but it'd be what it be. Anyway, so 2001 went by, and then got into 2001. Now 2001, of course, my sister got married to her first husband, and let me just say, in this situation, the husbands were at fault in both these marriages. My sister's a perfectly fine person. She just finds bad men to date. But anyway, not going to get into that. But it was a lovely wedding, though. It was a very nice wedding. I got to, I was a usher, had a nice tux. I have a picture on my Facebook of me and my dad and my brother. I've always loved that picture. It's just like, hey, man, I also got my license finally. After many, many tries of failing, I finally got my license, which was really awesome. And so my dad he had a car, a Dodge Dynasty, and so for my birthday, he gave it to me and said, this is your car. And he was going to get another one, so, which was super cool. It was this big ass boat. Where am I? 17 minutes here now for the second part. Anyway, so yeah, 2001, it was a very good year. I didn't get in the first show, but there was a new director named Isaac Walters who was directing this show called Death Watch, and it was a 4-man show, and I played the guard for the prison. It was basically 3 men in prison, one guy talking about how he murdered this girl, and there was all these big pre-recorded things of the stuff happening and stuff, and it was a pretty good show. Very dark and stuff like that. Like Isaac had a lot of big ideas. Like he wanted like a whole platform thing. Like it was stuff that they couldn't really do in IUSB, but he had a lot of bold ideas. And he said he cast me just for my sheer presence of just like standing at the top of the door, just like looking menacing, and that was fun. I remember this one performance. I like had this nightstick, and there was this little ring that I'm supposed to put it in, and like Donovan and Brett were in the audience, I believe, and like. They said it was a moment where you could tell that I had to break character for a minute because I'm just like, get the stupid in there. Get the fucking thing in there. Like, I'm not the guard anymore. Now I'm Adam dealing with this shit. Get those Adamisms out of there. And so, anyway, like I said, that was a great show. And I started to get to know Donovan and Brett a little bit. And we got along pretty well because I always said I knew Donovan's brother and stuff. First time I saw Brett, it's like, hey, who's this clown? We laugh about it now, but it's like, who's this guy? Who's this guy coming in and thinks he's hot shit? That's exactly like me, So, then the Christmas Carol was on, so I didn't do anything with that until the next year. I finally was in it. But I'm trying to think if there's any other lowest things that happened that year, 2001. Well, of course we had 9/11 happen. That was really horrible. But yeah, I said I got my license. There was a girl named Tara. It was really nice. She was cute. and she was a Jehovah's Witness, so that was a little weird, but like super nice. And like I remember, like I decided, all right, I'm gonna ask her out, and so I asked her out, and she was very nice about it too. You know, much like Kathy, she was very nice. Um, but like she said, I just got a lot of things I'm dealing with and all that stuff. And so I was, I was disappointed. I remember I took a drive since I could do that now, just to kind of clear my head. And it was like, I never get the fucking girl. I never get the fucking girl. Um, but she was like that. She was very nice. And I remember we were at a bar one time and I was kind of talking. I had this tendency when I would talk to a girl to just try to tell a joke to be funny or do something silly. Because then I'm like, okay, now what do I fucking do? I have no conversation skills beyond this laughter shit. So, laugh, please. Well, I've made her laugh. Cool. And I remember Jackie was really nice. Oh, I forgot to tell that Jackie story. I'll tell that in a minute. But like, she came out to me and said, I remember because for Death Watch, I had gotten, there was this nice, I think it was connected with Notre Dame, but like, it was this nice hotel. And it had like a jacuzzi and everything like in it. And like, we'd use some of the money we got from the will, and I was able to throw like a cast party there, which was super cool. And Tara came to it and all that stuff. And I remember like after she left, and we were sitting there listening to Filter and talking all that. And I remember Jackie said, "Hang in there with that girl," which was really nice. I mean, it didn't end up working out, but like it was nice that she, wanted to see me happy and stuff. But funny thing with Jackie, I can't remember if it might have been Richard III, but like a friend of mine, they had a flirtatious relationship. Flirtatious, they never dated or anything like that, but there was always kind of like a flirtatious thing. And like, I don't know, for some reason she gave him her bra. But then he, of course, had a girlfriend at home, so he couldn't take it home. So Chrissy's like, give it to Adam. So I ended up with Jackie's bra. And it was just like, I took it home and like, just put it in my drawer, whatever. My friend made me sniff it because, it's just perverse, but whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. It just smelled, perfumey and stuff. But like, I remember it was just like in class, I went to the class, play structure analysis, which I was retaking with a better teacher that wasn't Lois. And she's like, can I have my bra back? And she's like, and then we joke about it after that, like, oh, where that bra? I remember this one, and then I think one time we were joking, like, she's like, so what'd you do with that bra? I'm like, seriously, and Scout's honor, guys, I didn't do anything nasty with the bra. I put it in the drawer until Monday and I gave it back to her. That was, or in the initial sniff, it was like, that was it. That was it. I'm not some creepy, perverse person, but like I'm saying, it was just one of those things. You're a guy, okay, this is what people are telling you to do, whatever. So anyway, it was funny though, and we always had a good rapport about that. So anyway, as I said, 2001 was coming to an end, and then I did a show called King Henry IV. It was not a Shakespeare one, but it was something called Henry IV. It was kind of like, if you ever heard of the play Six Characters in Search of an Author, it's from the same author. And it's very much like that, where you're kind of characters, but you're other characters, and it didn't quite get as deep as I think we wanted to with it. I played Bertold, and that was one of my lines. And that was fun. Donovan was in it, Brett was in it. I remember specifically, because me and Donovan both liked Young Guns, and so we would quote it all the fucking time. And this one moment on stage, he's like not talking, but he's reacting. But I just see him going, all right. And I was just like, every fucking time, because it was just like a thing from like, Dirty Steve and Young Guns, just like, all right. And we would do that. We could literally quote the whole movie and like never watch it again. We would just quote the whole movie because we watched it so many goddamn times. Which is why we bought it so well. There's some more classes I could talk about too that are fun. On camera techniques, that's a lot of fun. Or brush up your Shakespeare. But I'm trying to keep on focus here, because hey, we're almost to me going to Tecumseh. What? So Tecumseh, my first professional job. Should I talk about that now? Because this leads into meeting Anna. So I feel like we should kind of wrap things up. So let me just talk a little bit about. We'll get to Anna next time. I want a specific video for Anna because that's the most important woman of all. So I'll wrap it up. Maybe tomorrow I might even do the Anna thing. I'm just throwing it. I don't have to work tomorrow, so I'm just going, let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, there's other things I need to do, but regardless, like take a nap at some point. But anyway, let's talk about some classes. There was this on-camera technique class. Oh, I should talk about, I can jump to senior year, my final year, and then we'll go back to the Tecumseh stuff. I'll tie it in though. Okay, so anyway, on-camera techniques class, it was basically like acting for the camera. And I remember I did this scene from Heathers. It's like, damn, Veronica, we could have some marshmallows together. And then I remember like Randy saying slate, and I didn't know what the hell slate meant. Much like I didn't know what beat meant in high school. Like it was like slate. I'm like, no, slate. Oh, Adam Hay. Like you say your name. But I just remember like we had this whole like, well, it's an American tradition. Baseball, maybe. Bible pie, maybe. Bacon fat on toast, and it was like a feed the hungry children there. But like it was just like kind of how you'd walk steps towards the camera, and it was interesting. I mean, the class was interesting. But there's this one girl named Patty, nice girl. Unfortunately, saw her ass one time, which was very big, because she had sagging pants, and it was just like she was doing some dancing thing up in the Shakespeare class, and it was like, oh god. That was not pretty. Nice girl, but like, she did this monologue. Well, first she did this one called "A Husband St. Catherine," a good one St. Catherine, a rich one St. which I found a library book that had it in there. And then she did this one really dramatic monologue, and it was really good. And then she's just like, "Yeah, I wrote that before class." And Randy's like, "Yeah, it's not a playwriting class, not a playwriting class." So that was funny. And then we have David Boyer, who's, a great guy as well, a good friend. But like, he like did this thing where it's just like, what happened? But just another Sunday. What happened? Who pulled the plug? Where's God? Where's God? It's funny. Oh, and then Cecily did this one. I forget what the monologue is from, but she's just like, what were you doing? Fucking your way to AIDS? You do what you have to do, and I'll do what I have to do. I was like, I don't know why that was fun, but it was just very memorable. That was a fun class. It really was. I remember this time that Cecily was drunk, and I always had this memory because, she was going through some stuff, and it was just what it was. But I just remember like she's apologizing because you get drunk and make sometimes you make a saying, whatever, no big deal. Everybody's done it. But like, the guy she was interested in wasn't paying attention to her, essentially. Which, hey, I get that. But, like, then she's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, I forgive you. And she's like, you forgive me. It was very dramatic. It was fun. Cecily's a great person. So anyway, as I said, 2001. Oh, we got to get into 2002. Because we got into 2002, didn't we? We did. How about that? Because I did Henry IV, and that was fun. And then I went to Tecumseh, which I'll get to. Like I said, Tecumseh is a separate video because I had 3 years at Tecumseh, and then there's another thing I did, which I'll talk about too. But we got to get in the honest stuff. I want to get into it. Deep mind meld. There was a girl I was kind of interested in that was working the tech, but then ended up not asking her out because I was like, maybe not. And actually, it was funny because Brenda got married, and I was actually invited to the wedding, which I was like, oh, cool. Because we were friendly, but like I was, talk about a change from a couple of years ago. Virgil couldn't stand beside of me. Now I'm at her wedding, so it was great. So it was a fun wedding. But yeah. Anywho, back to me. So anyway, after being at Tecumseh, I was gone for the summer. Now Aaron Smithers and Cecily Kelly had all done Tecumseh. When they came back, they were given like their senior project and stuff like that to do and stuff like that. And I remember like we were doing, I forget what was the play that we were doing the fall. It wasn't Triumph for Love. That was the previous year. I don't even know. I can't remember. Anyway, Isaac was directing that one. And then there was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which was Cecily's exit project. She had gone to, I think, Red Barn and worked there, but hadn't had a great experience. But it was her senior extra project. And then, I had gone to Tecumseh and all that stuff. But every one of them would come back. They'd come back and they were able to audition. They used their video from the thing. So a couple weeks before I was done at Tecumseh for the summer, Randy says, "Oh, well, we need you to prepare an audition," which I'm like thinking to myself, "Well, why don't you just use the video like you use everybody else?" Long story short, but so anyway, I'm like, okay, I prepare an audition. I have Anna work with me on it. Like I said, I'll talk more about how we met and all that stuff. But so I prepare this audition for several weeks. I get done with Tecumseh. I go home. The minute I walk in, I look on the board. The first show, completely cast. The second show, completely cast. Christmas Carol, completely cast. No name. The only name I have, assistant stage manager for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. To say I was pissed off was an understatement. Now, I try to keep my cool, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to go talk to Randy about this, because I'm like, what the fuck? I just prepared a fucking audition. Why did I prepare an audition if you guys were just fucking cast me? So anyway, it is what it is. So this was kind of when some of the Randy issues, I think, started. I didn't have a major blow up issues with Randy, but this is kind of when things were starting to build a bit, and we're fine now. But like at the time, it was what it was. So anyway, I remember like I went and talked to him. He says, "Well, we had to cast the first show, and then the other one is a guest artist, and you weren't right for one of the parts, and then." Since you've been in A Christmas Carol, we didn't want to put you in that again. I'm just like, in my mind, did he not remember that I had never been in the Christmas Carol? Because I hadn't. Like, I never, ever had been in the Christmas Carol. They'd done it for like 4 or 5 years. I'd never been in it. So I was kind of like, okay, what the fuck, Randy? I mean, I guess he doesn't know, he doesn't remember. I'm not saying he has to remember everything I was in, but, and we had kind of a long talk. I talked about, it was somewhat pleasant. I talked about Tecumseh and all that, but like, I remember I went and called Chrissy and all that, and she said, "That's fucking bullshit," and did it. And then, so I'm like, okay, well, I'll just grin and bear it. And so anyway, mind you, at this point, I am in a long-distance relationship with Anna, which, like I said, I'll tie in the Anna stuff in a different video tomorrow. All the meeting and courting and all that stuff. So I'm already having a little bit of stress. This is also my senior year. I'm trying to graduate. I'm trying to get the fuck out of this place. Even though I have no idea what the fuck I'm going to do afterwards. Because I'm not going to try to grad school because fuck, I'm doing okay grade-wise, but it's not like they're not exactly hyping me up as this great fucking acting talent or can't miss talent or giving me the confidence to be an acting talent. Some of that was my own fault, but, some of it was favoritism. And I'm not blaming, I'm just saying what was. So anyway, I remember we were rehearsing, and there was the guest artist from Chicago ended up having to drop out, so Randy took the part of the husband. And then there was this other young guy playing the visitor, I think is what it is. I forget what his name is. It's been a while since I read that play. And then Cecily was, of course, the main lead and stuff like that. And was there another female in there too? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the damn play. I don't remember. So anyway, I remember like Jeff Tabor was really upset about it because he's been working hard and he really wanted the role. And he ended up being in A Christmas Carol again. I think he was Scrooge the previous year, or was it? He was either Scrooge the previous year or he was in it. But anyway, Brett was going to be Scrooge that year. And Donovan actually had dropped out of the theater department. It was a funny story there, which was just like he decided to drop out of the theater department, and then like Randy's like, "Oh, I got you know, I mean, you're a major, you have to audition," and no, it didn't, Donovan, no, it didn't. You're making the choices. You're not making the right ones. It's a funny story, but I didn't do it justice. Yeah, Donovan doing it would be funny as hell. But anyway, so we're going along. I just remember like Emily was the stage manager. I was assistant stage manager, even though I'd been that before. So usually you do assistant, I don't do much stage managing, but not even elevating there. Ken wanted me to do it, but Ken had left. So. And I remember Lois comes in and says, "Oh, Adam, are you assistant stage managing?" Like, she didn't fucking know. Like, she had nothing to do with me putting me in this fucking position at all. It's like, fuck you. In my mind, I'm like, fuck you. You fucking bitch. Anyway, so, as luck would have it, we also had this kind of board thing, sort of the drama board thing, whatever, which I ended up being elected president of. And I was totally gun ho to like do some events and bring back Bullshits, which was our party that disappeared many years ago. And like be really active since I wasn't going to be in any fucking shows this semester. I'm like, but then I ended up getting things switched around. And I ended up being in a Christmas Carol because Jeff ended up taking the role of the other guy in the show. So that worked out. They said, well, we made a trade. And it worked out for me, you know. And Randy's like, well, it's very important what you're doing here, but, you know, they need someone there. So I'm like, oh, cool, you know. That's all I got to be in a Christmas Carol. I played Bob Cratchit off of Brett's Scrooge, and that was a lot of fun. I also got to play Fezziwig. That was a lot of fun. I met Steve Cole there, too, and there was a lot of good group of people there. And Isaac directed that, so that was a lot of fun. I also remember during that show, because Lois comes in, and Tom had written the show, mind you, and Isaac is Mormon, and he had thrown in this kind of like thing where a couple of people were praying or something like that. It wasn't in the show before, but hey, it's his directed vision. Before Christmas Carol, they had been directed by a couple of people. I think Ceci had directed it. This other girl, Amanda, had directed it. I want to say, I don't know if Doug had directed it, but I know it had been a couple. It usually had been a student. This year it was Isaac. Even Cecily had said, you should try to direct that. I think you'd be up for it. You know, they never gave me the chance, but oh well. Yeah, because I remember I took directing class, actually. That was fun. I forgot my whole 2000 story, didn't I? Fuck. Let me wind back around real quick. Sorry, it's funny. It just ties back to what I was talking about with the Big Bopper. So I went with my friend Mike Wallace and Laura Rausch and Doug to New York. And one of the funny things Mike said at the time, we and him have recently had sort of a argument on Facebook, over the abortion thing, and it got blown out of proportion. I've apologized. He hasn't talked to me yet, but he hasn't deleted me yet, so who knows. Long story. Let's just get back to it. Anyway, we were friends, and it's funny. We're in the car. He's just like, Laura got the meeting place. I mapped out the trip. Doug's driving, and now of course I was the Big Nasty at this time, so I remember if I mentioned that or not. And how many times are you going to go to New York with the Big Nasty? So that was funny. So I remember we went up to New York, and basically Mike and Laura were like, we're going to corrupt these guys. Now this was the first time that I tried weed, because I had never tried it in high school. I was always kind of like, I don't know, and my parents even told me like, we smoked it, my sister had tried it, whatever. But like, I was very cautious because I knew that Chrissy would be mad. Because we were always so like, we're not doing that, because all of our friends did it, but like we never did it, Prom was fun though. So anyway, I only took a couple of hits. It was like the joint type. I never smoked cigarettes, so when I have done it, I don't really like the joint. I'd rather do the pipe because it's just easier, I think. Personally, I don't really do it that much anymore. It's been a year since I've even. And I barely did that much anyway. It would be like a few hits. But like, anyway, I did that. And then, I don't know, like, Laura was saying the same thing. Like, I want to see this Big Bopper. And me in my head, I'm just like, well, fuck this shit. I'm tired of hearing about this Big Bopper. I'm tall, too. I am probably Weasley Hunt. I'm not going to disclose that here on the video. But... So my thought process was, well, she's going to see Doug. She can see me too. And then, of course, I whipped it out like an idiot. And, because it's in a room of people, it's not like it's going to be standing at attention either. So, and I feel bad. I've apologized. She laughed it off, whatever. But, like, I feel bad. I should have never done that. Not my finest moment. But it was one of those kind of stupid male competitive things. Well, I'll show this motherfucker, Anyway, just want to tie back to that. We did get to see David Letterman, we got to see Les Mis, and we got to see Cabaret at Studio 54, which was cool. And there was a lot of funny, interesting characters in New York. Anyway, back here to my final year at college. And so Christmas Carol was fun, but like I said, Lois was like, what's this prayer thing in here? We didn't have that before. And then like 5 minutes later, Tom comes up and says, you know what? I wrote this show, and I've seen it done many times. This is probably one of my favorite times. It still gets better every time. And then I just remember her going, Tom. I'm like, you are so fucking two-faced, bitch. You are so fucking two-faced. And I was like, this is Isaac fucking directing. Let him put what he wants in the fucking show. It's like, I don't care if someone's religious or not. It's like, if this is your vision, that's your vision. And Isaac is a good director. Isaac helped me get that Tecumseh job. He worked with me on my monologues, gave me some notes, and I nailed that Tecumseh audition. Which me and Doug both went down there. We both actually got into it. I didn't mention that part. And we drove down, and it was a good thing. Doug gave me a good promotion going in. We got a call back for that. I had gotten a call back for Red Barn as well, but Tecumseh just seemed more like good fit for me. I'd known people who had done it. But I remember when I was going through them, and Doug's like, "Oh, the next guy is really good. You'll want to, So Doug looked out for me, and I appreciate that. And like I said, I look forward to talking about Tecumseh, but I just want to try to wrap this video up because it's already 40 minutes. Good God, Adam. So anyway, that semester went by. Christmas Care was a lot of fun, and went really well. And then I kind of just fizzled out of the whole president thing. I was just like, I was just ready to get out of there. I was like, I got a long distance thing going with my girlfriend. I get an email from her every month, basically, at that time. But so there were stresses. I had a sort of argument with this girl Antonia, and we had been friends before, and then it's just a whole thing. But I apologize, but it was just, I don't know. And then I basically got heard, that president went, well, nobody else is doing anything either. So it was a board thing that actually show up for meetings. Anyway, neither here nor there, not important. It really wasn't anything, it never made anything. Anyway, final semester of Adam's college career. So Winnie the Pooh was the children's show that year. There was no Tigger in this one. And Randy kept saying, you want to be Eeyore, and he pretty much had me in mind for Eeyore, which was cool, If Tigger wasn't going to be in it, Eeyore is a pretty darn good choice. And I remember Boyer and Brett both auditioned for it. And Brett would have been a perfect rabbit or a perfect owl, and Boyer would have been a great rabbit. And he didn't cast either of them. He cast these communication majors instead, who I really liked, these guys. Very nice guys. I had no problem with them whatsoever. One of them cut his hair and, got in trouble with Lois, of course. But, very nice guys. I got along with those guys just fine. And, they got a little loud backstage here and there, but, wasn't out of control, as some people like to say. And, whatever. So the show went pretty well. The assistant stage manager was really funny. And he would write all these Randy quotes or whatever of, things that he would say in rehearsals. Because Randy always had so many funny quotes. He's like, my ass hurts, holy mother. He's like, and I remember he was talking to this girl, Chris, sort of, about, she's getting iodine. It's not like Bactine or whatever. And she's like, oh, I don't like Bactine. He's like, what? I drink the shit on the rocks, Randy would always have those things the same. He also had this thing where he would come up, talk to you, and he'd be, unbuttoning his pants to tuck his shirt in. And the first time he does that, you're like, what the what kind of casting couch am I in? But he also farted a lot, too. That was something. That's just Randy. He did chew tobacco and stuff like that, and done spit cut, which was one time we got knocked over. It was so gross. But whatever. A good guy. But anyway, the show itself went well. I had this really, creepy black and blue makeup. And, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Steve was Winnie the Pooh. And Crystal was Rue, and I think Antonia was Kanga, and then April was Piglet, yeah. And like I said, Owl and Rabbit were those two communication guys, who I got along with great. We had a lot of fun, we hung out together, it was all good. No big deal, right? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I remember this one time this person was in the audience, and there's a point where we walk in front of the audience, because it's a kid's show, you want to make it very animated for them. And I remember I just turned and went, boo, and she just jumped out of her chair. Oh, and the other thing, me and Donovan had actually started doing Essential Stupidity, the Kate Wax's show, because we were talking a lot of why don't you go and do that show you used to do? We should do it together. Okay, cool. What are you doing today? Nothing. And we went and signed a contract and started doing Kate Wax's. So a funny story, though. I'm sitting there doing autographs. It's the one time you're allowed in costume with people, because it's for kids. And we're doing autographs for kids and hugging kids and all that stuff because they come up and hug you. And I'm just standing there, just not even thinking about it. And Donovan's like, oh, you coming by the studio? I'm like, yeah, let me just get this shit off my face right in front of some kids. Way to go, Adam, role model. So anyway, I didn't get in Scapino, which was the other show, which Isaac was directing. I was doing pratfalls like a motherfucker, and I actually hurt myself a little bit doing it. But I was doing that like a motherfucker because I wanted that fucking lead role. Like, I just wanted one damn lead role. Or even like a side character. I didn't get it. I remember too, Brett was like, Boyer was like, I think, assistant stage manager. No, he was props guy. And then they had Brett basically holding this. He had one moment in the thing where like Pooh has a balloon, and it's just like Brett would raise this balloon. That was his only job. I'm like, you could have just had Boyer do that. Why even have Brett here? You know. But I remember he was one time. He's just like, gentlemen, I need complete silence to focus on this. You know, Brett's funny like that. I always remember I'm like, I'll buy you lunch. You got any money? After he didn't get cast, but like he ended up getting in that show, which was cool. But like I remember I had to go watch it and stuff like that, and so I did go and watch it, and like that was fine. But like I just remember being really disappointed because I'm like and there's nothing against Isaac. He cast who he cast, and the guy was good. They played Scapino obviously, and Steve was Silvestro, and it was a good cast. It was a fun show. I was glad I saw it and stuff. But like I think I worked as an usher, you know, so it was fun. But like I remember just like. Because it was my senior year, I didn't, and it's like Donovan's like your exit project is Eeyore. Nothing against Eeyore, but like Donovan got, you know, Cecily gets, you know, not to say I'm on the same level, but like they got, you know, good shows to go out on their big senior project, and I get Eeyore, which I loved playing Eeyore, but to have be my last role, like I would have loved to have had a comedic role like Scapino, because I'd seen it in high school and thought it was a great show. But hey, life goes on, whatever. So anyway. Speaking of some drama here for a minute. For once, it's not Lois. So anyway, I get pulled into Randy's office at one point. And he says, yeah, I need to talk to you about something, you know. And he says, well, April came to me and said that you weren't being a senior leader backstage and those guys were out of control backstage and the communication majors that, you know, he cast. And I'm like, okay, you know, it's like, no, I didn't, I don't understand what's going on. Like, I tried to be welcoming, but I don't think it was like that. And I went and talked to April, and she's like, well, I did talk to Randy because I expect you to be a senior leader. And I'm like, oh my God, you're buying into this shit, April, come on. And April's a very nice person. Her and Jeff were together, and they're lovely people, but like at this time it was just like, a lot of times what happened was they would pit each other against each other. Like, Aaron would be, like, Randy's favorite, and then Virginia would have Carrie and some of these other people, and, like, it would be, like, they'd almost be pitted against each other. Almost like, this is my person that I'm pushing, basically. Almost like a wrestling booker. This is my champion, you know. And it's just, like, all this, it's just stupid. It was dumb. Like, why even, like, pit against each other? It's just, like, just... And so she was buying into that shit at the time. And it's no big deal. I'm not mad at her now. But, like, at the time, it was like, what the fuck, April? Come on. And then Antonia chimed in, well, I also thought. I was like, the fuck? What is everyone's problem? It's like, this is my senior fucking year. I'm trying to fucking graduate, okay? I'm sorry if I don't feel like being the senior leader backstage. And treat people like, all right, asshole, shut up. You know, it's like, that's not my job. First of all, I'm not the assistant stage manager. Or the stage manager. That's not my job. I'm an actor in the show. Just my personal take. Nothing against anybody. Just what I'm saying. So anyway, we get to... I did get a senior recital. So I'll give him credit for that. And Doug had done one as well, I remember. And I had to choose one Shakespeare. I think one Moliere. One that shows my range or something as an actor. And I think one role that is completely opposite of me, and then and then a scene, which I chose Zoo Story with Brett, and we even had the scene where we have to where I make him stab me and stuff like that. It's towards the end of the play, and I'd always liked that story. I'd always liked that play. I still love to do it. It is a lot of lines. It's a big line load. Edward Albee play, but. And then I did Richard III. I did my monologue from Richard III that I had about killing the kids and all that. I did some other Shakespeare one, a comedic one, I think. I did something Moliere. And then I did From Extremities. If you ever heard of Extremities, it's basically a play about this rapist who gets captured by this woman who he tries to rape. And he's saying all these really awful things. With my religious lovely Aunt Carol in the crowd with me. But hey, had to be opposite. Totally opposite of me. I'm not rapey. So anyway, like, after that performance, now I hadn't gone and worked with Randy on it, which maybe in hindsight, maybe I should have gone over it with him. He came by one time, and I think he was waiting for me to, ask. But at the same time, I was thinking in my mind, as I told him later, and I thought, sometimes in the real world, you're not going to have somebody work with you on this, so you're just going to do it yourself. Which isn't necessarily true, but at the time, I didn't really know. So anyway, he said, come see me, and so I went and saw him, and we pretty much hashed it the fuck out, like, the whole year. And he, like, was just like, yeah, you're not letting on, I think you're a bit bitter. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I am. Because I hadn't really bitched about the thing with the play earlier in the year. And I mentioned that, like, all these other people got to use their video, and I had a freaking cover audition. I auditioned, and I come here and I don't get a freaking audition. I wasted my time, getting jacked around. And they go, well, you don't think we're quite on that level of them. And it's like, okay, well, then just say that. But, like, and we went through this whole thing. There was some conversation of it that was good. We talked for, like, an hour. But, like, I was, I let out what some of my feelings were. And he talked about other people and other things, too. Oh, he talked about Meisner. He's like, yeah, people complain about Meisner. I'll never teach it again, So, and it was like all this tension with Randy. I was like, I really liked when we were, like, he even said, yeah, he used to come see me and talk and all that. I was like, did you just need some company there, Randy? Because I did like talking to him when I'd have to do it on probation, But, like, then I somehow got out of it. I don't know. But, like, it was just kind of all this, like, what is this Fallout shit? And then you had your exit interview. Now, my plan for years at this exit interview was to tell Lois the fuck off. That was my plan. Chrissy also had this plan before she graduated. And the same thing happened at her interview that happened at mine. Fucking Lois was nice to me. She said, no one can take this diploma away from you. You have proved yourself and gotten, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, you have made my life a living hell for 6 fucking years. Yes, I went there 6 years. And now you're being nice to me. And then Randy brought up the goddamn Winnie the Pooh thing again. I'm just like, yeah, I thought we, welcome people to the theater department, not alienate them. And we got into it a little bit, and it was just like, we ended up just like dropping it and all that. But like, it was just like, we were getting heat with each other again. I'm just like, what the fuck, Randy? So anyway, yeah. So I never got to really tell Lois off, like I probably wanted to. But, I mean, we all had that fantasy, I'm going to tell that boss off or whatever, at work or whatever. But sometimes it doesn't happen, or things happen, and it is what it is. But several years later, Lois got fired, unfortunately along with Tom, for, believe it or not, favoritism! What? Making people cry and, humiliating them in front of everybody in the class? Sir, I'm sure that's no reason for favoritism whatsoever. But yeah, so she did get hers in the end. So the moral of the story is that eventually sometimes karma will come for people. So yeah, once that happened, I'm like, cool, no big deal. I'm good with it. And like I said, many years later, me and Randy were able to make peace. Before I moved out here, we had got together for a drink. Doug was there too. And, I apologized to, I was like, I'm sorry, I never wanted it to be tense between us and all that stuff. But anyway, so that kind of wraps up the college stuff. There's more to talk about when it comes to meeting Anna and stuff like that. But I've spent almost an hour doing the other video, and now I've spent almost an hour doing this video. Holy shit, Adam, you can talk. So yeah, I got some other things to do too, guys. It's not just all about you. But I hope you enjoy this part 2, and I will be back tomorrow with part 3. Ooh, impressive. All right, guys, have a great day.